Hi, welcome back to my channel. I will be doing a combined June wrap-up and July TBR video because I only read a few books in June and moved one of them into my July TBR. So I thought it would make more sense to put the two together than to have them completely separate. So first off, I will start with Dear Banjo. I gave this book 5 stars. It is a West Australian rural romance, and it's about what happens when two friends who haven't seen each other for 10 years, what happens when they meet back up, how do they resolve any friendship issues, and does love grow? I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It was a very easy read. I would normally pick up a romance book if it doesn't have some sort of fantasy element, and this one doesn't, but I have read the fantasy stories by this author and knew that her writing style was very easy, so I figured I would be able to easily get through this book. And I was right, I read half of it in one night. If you want to try a romance novel that isn't your typical romance, I would pick this one up. My next one is Magnus Chase and the Ship of the Dead, which I listened to through Audible. It is the final book in the series for the Magnus Chase trilogy. Magnus has to get his hallmates together and go save the world. And let's just say the way he does it is rather unconventional. I gave that book 4 stars. It has a very diverse cast. In the first book you are introduced to 2 Islamic families and a deaf character. In the second book you are introduced to a member of the LGBTQ community who identifies herself as transgender and gender fluid. And she uses those words to describe herself. She also states that most of the time she is female, but when she is male, she is male. I enjoyed the character dynamics of that group and how they all managed to not go completely crazy while waiting around for Ragnarok. The last book that I read in June was the Rowan of Rin, The Journey, which is a bind-up of the 5 Rowan of Rin novels. The protagonist in this one is a young boy who doesn't fit in with his village. He is skinny, sickly, and always kind of afraid. But he then goes on to become the hero. And his village finds out throughout the course of the 5 books their history, where they came from and how everything happened. And Rowan is the central point for all 5 stories. He has different friends with him on different quests, and everyone has their role to play. Now on to my July TBR. The first 2 books are for the Tome Topple, and Saga initially was in my June TBR, but when I realised Tome Topple was starting at the end of June and going through to the first couple of weeks of July, I thought it would be best if I waited for Tome Topple and included this in that readathon. The only thing I know about it is it's a space-based graphic novel, so I will see what I think of it. My second book is The Magician's Guild, which I will be listening to the audiobook version because a while ago we had a foster dog in who had a bad day and decided that my book needed to be shortened. So I will be listening to the audiobook version of this. If I finish the audiobook version of that, I will then be moving on to the audiobook version of the Defenders of Shannara, Book 1, The High Druid's Blade. So I'll see what I think of that, because I have been rereading a lot of the Shannara stories, and this is one of the ones that I haven't gotten around to read at all, so we'll see what I think. Then for the rest of the month, I will be reading True Blue, which is the sequel to Dear Banjo, and it's about the youngest Patterson sister and what happens in her life. And everyone decided through Facebook, Instagram and YouTube here that I would be reading book 2 up here, so I'm going to open that up now and see which one it's going to be. So book 2, I will be reading I've got to get it open first. I'll be reading Unhinged by A.G. Howard. This is the second in the Splintered series, and so this is an Alice in Wonderland retelling, and I am very curious to find out what happens next. Don't look at me, look at the camera. So if you have any comments, please leave them below. If you have any books you think, based on what you've seen so far, that you think I'd enjoy, or if there's any book you want to know a bit more about, please feel free to contact me in the comments or on Facebook or Instagram, and I will do my best to reply. I will see you for my next video.